Finales. They're something all of us have to deal with, for better or worse. Whether it be a fantastic ending to a beloved show you didn't want to see end, or a not-so-fantastic ending to a show you felt fell from grace. Either way, finales are an essential part of all media, an ending to a story. And today, I present to you the finale of What If Goku Married Android 21. Obviously, this is not the first part to this series, so if you haven't seen the other, I think we're up to 6 parts, I would greatly recommend you go check those videos out before coming back to this one if you enjoyed. Or you can just wait for the full story to be up in a couple of days. Either way is fine with me, as long as you guys are having a good time. But now, with all of that out of the way, let's get into the story of this What If. Goku has recently achieved his penultimate transformation, something he dubs Primary Evolution. It is the ultimate evolution to a Saiyan transformation, combining the power of gods with the power of Super Saiyan as well as the power of stars, all three working collaboratively to increase his power exponentially, leading to a power that even rivals Vegeta in his Akaishin transformation, as Vegeta has been training to become the next god of destruction. He does have some experience in some more godly roles, so he moved up ranks in the totem pole and now is one of those powerful beings in Universe 7. Both him and Goku have been training together most recently and are prepared for whatever threat comes up, or at least, so they think. Little did they know they would be faced with the challenge of a lifetime. Here, it's not something they can deal with through pure strength. Rather, it's a tournament, something that would result in the death of all universes if they fail. Well, one would get to survive, but only that sole universe, as well as that universe getting to wish upon the Super Dragon Balls, although it's rather inconsequential if you're not that winning universe. You might be wondering why we're skipping over the Goku Black arc here, and that's just because, well, it didn't make any sense in the original. Frankly, it shouldn't have happened either way, even though it was one of my favorite arcs of Super. It was very visually interesting, however, in terms of actual thematic possibility, it was very low. It shouldn't have happened, and even though I liked it, it didn't make much sense, so we're avoiding it here, and just moving straight to the Tournament of Power. And when it comes to making the list for members of Universe 7's team entering the tournament, it would be pretty similar to what Universe 6 vs 7's team was, except now it's going to have a couple extra members. So right off of the bat, we have Goku, Vegeta, Android 21, Gohan, and Piccolo. But then we're adding in Trunks, the child of Gohan and Bulma, Future Trunks, the future child of Vegeta and Bulma, or Gohan and Bulma there, but it doesn't really matter. Either way, it's still just Future Trunks. Then androids 17 and 18 wouldn't be there for obvious reasons, they were never androids here, so we do still have 3 spots left to fill. Now, we'll say that somewhere along the time skip between the Dr. Gero coming back and King Cold fights, we would see Android 21 and Goku having a second kid, because it just makes sense. If you've seen Android 21, jokes aside, they would have Goten, who here would be capable of going Super Saiyan and even Super Saiyan 2, seeing as he'd be trained a lot more by Goku, who wouldn't go off planet all that much. So overall, he's a lot stronger than in-universe Goten, but it still doesn't matter all that much. He's just being put in here to fill spaces. Then, as risky as a move as it is, they would bring back 2 Frost Demons from prior parts in the story, Frieza and Cooler. Now, Cooler is the one they're a bit risky on, because even though he wasn't as strong as Frieza, he was a bit more dangerous. He could take over other life forms and absorb them, which will come in handy for the Tournament of Power, but they're not exactly sure how adjusted he is to the living world, whether or not he'll actually go off and kill everybody once the tournament's over. Although they don't believe that'll happen simply because of how weak he is in comparison to everybody else. But because of that, they would also bring him into the room of Spirit and Time for a couple hours on the outside. That way he's still strong enough going into the tournament to deal with some of the more heavy hitters. Frieza wouldn't get this luxury because his potential is just too insane, but Cooler, who doesn't have that much of incredible potential, would definitely get some special treatment. He needs to be strong enough to contend with everybody else, even if his abilities are pretty hacks. Frieza himself wouldn't change at all here because, well, he didn't get any training in the original story, and both main story Frieza and this Frieza would be the exact same, so there's no real reason to note anything special for Frieza. However, now with the team set, they would head off to the tournament arena after 48 hours. Well, probably around 24 hours since it would take a while to get the team together. And after arriving at the battleground, they would be fighting in for the next, an hour. I mean, honestly, it was kind of a short time period to be fair, but at the same time, they moved way faster than light, so it didn't matter. Either way, the group would be talking and meeting all sorts of different fighters from different universes, although most of the bonding would only be between sister universes, like Universe 6 and 7, where Goku would meet a chick named Caulifla, who's headstrong and kind of reminds him of what he could have turned out like had he been more like a natural Saiyan. However, here he's much more like Kale. Well, I guess a mix of Kale and Caulifla. He's not shy by any means, but he's more reserved, even though he does have that same fire in his belly. So he's kind of a mix between the two, a Kefla, if you will. Although, we're not there yet. Vegeta would also be reintroduced to Kappa, who he would have still had a bond with in the last part of this story, although it would be much more friendly than it was in the original, seeing as Vegeta isn't the same hateful and angry person as he was in the original. He had all that scrubbed away, even though he does still have some of those impulses in him from the God of Destruction training. It kind of relit that inside of him. However, now, having met Kaba again, he would kind of introduce him to the idea of God Ki. He certainly won't be able to turn into a Super Saiyan God here, but maybe Vegeta would slip him a little bit of his Destroyer Ki. That way he can tinker with it and see what he can do from there. He won't be able to do anything significant, but it is a nice power boost, something that will definitely come in handy later in the tournament. And as for Android 21, she would be one of the few people who actually went outside of her sister universe when communicating with people, being more interested in the robot universe, seeing as it's just a neat thing she's never really seen before. Yes, robots are definitely something mainstream in Dragon Ball, but at the same time, an entire universe filled with them is incredible. She was already astounded by Magetta in the last part, but here, seeing an entire species of robots, it's just so interesting. But sadly, the piece is broken, as they do need to start duking it out. And they would. It would be an incredible battle, similar to the original story. However, there are only key plot points that would really change here. Most of it is the same, except with probably a few more eliminations on Vegeta's side, since he would be far more powerful here. Goku would be reserved and probably get a little less eliminations just because he isn't so headstrong, thinking he wants to fight everybody. Well, it wasn't so much thinking in the original, he wanted to fight everybody. Here, one of the bigger things for Goku at least would be his interaction with Kale and Caulifla, not only having met them before the tournament started, but also getting to mentor them in a bit of a different way from the original. Instead of focusing solely on Caulifla, teaching her how to go Super Saiyan 2 and 3, instead he's mostly just teaching the two of them how to take the better parts of each other's personality and add them to each other's, meaning that Kale would now be able to actually show herself more, kind of like what the Berserker transformation did for her, meaning she has more confidence and isn't as reserved, although she is still to a point, but kind of the perfect blend. And the same for Caulifla, not showing her entire hand, going straight into battle without a strategy. Now she would understand the importance of actually developing plans before immediately rushing in to fight someone. Like, maybe not going after the strongest person in the tournament, somebody who's basically you but 10 times better. That being Caulifla versus Goku in the original, I mean. Although here Goku wouldn't immediately try and knock out Kale and Caulifla. I know he didn't in the original, but it's important to point out that Goku would choose to leave them in, even though he could probably knock them out right away. He He wants them to be able to get rid of some of the more fodder fighters, that way Goku can take on the heaviest hitters since that is the league he's in right now. And to a point, I don't think he'd even challenge Jiren here. I don't really even think he'd want to challenge Hit, because even though he was able to beat Hit in the last part, he does still recognize he's an incredibly challenging opponent, and he wouldn't have that whole arc in the anime where Goku hires Hit to assassinate him. That just isn't something he'd do here. Rather, Goku is avoiding some of the stronger fighters until they wear themselves out, something he realizes Jiren just isn't doing. So maybe to a point he'd start an altercation with Jiren, that way he can get him going, that way he's able to lose a lot of stamina so Goku can swoop in at the end. He's being a bit more strategical here, especially since everybody he knows and loves, hell, everybody he's ever even seen, will die if he isn't. Although, even with Primary Evolution, Goku doesn't really stand a chance against Jiren here. It might look like Ultra Instinct, but it's not the same level of power. Comparable, maybe, stronger than Super Saiyan Blue and even Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken, however, comparable to Ultra Instinct, even Omen? Barely. However, this doesn't mean that Goku wouldn't get it here. By that I mean Ultra Instinct. Since, even though he wouldn't create a Spirit Bomb and have that push him to his absolute limit nearly killing him, Goku, honestly, personality-wise, is a lot better for Ultra Instinct than Goku in the original, since this version of Goku is a lot more controlled, to the point where he values his family more than anything, even training with Whis. He's not so headstrong and immediately wants to go into battle, he's not the same Goku, and he also isn't like Vegeta where his emotions will get in the way. He is rather reserved. I feel like all Tuffles would probably be pretty good for Ultra Instinct, and since Goku has the mind of a Tuffle and the body of a Saiyan, he's practically perfect for the transformation, especially after like nearly 100 years actually getting to train and perfect his style. Nearly 100 years, as in Goku has been alive for, well, probably as long as Bardock in the original series. So I guess not really 100, more so like 80, but that's still pretty old, and means he has a lot of experience under his belt. He's kind of like Master Roshi, but with a much more adept mind, as well as a far more physically strong body. And since at least in the manga, Master Roshi was able to achieve a state of Ultra Instinct, I see no reason that Goku couldn't as well. I know he didn't really get Ultra Instinct, but he got practically the beta mortal version of it, to where his body isn't strong enough, but he could totally get it. So yes, Goku would achieve Ultra Instinct at least in Omen here, which would allow him to push Jiren, but not nearly as much as he should. Base to base, Goku is far weaker here. Not to such a degree that Jiren is just trouncing on him, but to an extent that Goku isn't able to actually push Jiren as much as he could have in the original. So when it's time for him to bow out, Goku does. He flees the battle, realizing if Jiren knocks him out, then that could spell doom for Universe 7. He's probably not the strongest member on the group, that might actually be Vegeta here, but losing one of their strongest members would not be great for the team. He would have sustained some pretty serious injuries, nothing like a broken arm or broken leg, but pretty dang close. He's definitely scuffed up a lot, and it wouldn't hurt to get healed, so Android 21 would step in. I haven't gone over her powers all that much in this series, but I do feel like she'd be able to have some sort of healing abilities. Not maybe magically, but maybe mechanically. So she would be able to heal Goku, not back up to full, but pretty dang close. As for Gohan vs Frost, or Gohan vs Dispo, both of those fights, especially tag teaming with Frieza, would go pretty easy for the Half Saiyan. Since, well, first of all, Frieza is an absolute beast, same as in the original, but at the same time, Gohan would be pretty dang strong on his own. Since Goku's been on Earth a lot more than he was in the original, Gohan has kept up with his training, so he's more akin to the Gohan we saw fought Goku in the manga in recent times, even without Beast. We can't really gauge how strong that version of Gohan is without Beast, but I'll say he's probably around the same level as Goku in the main series. That way he is pretty dang strong, but the strongest form he has is Ultimate, which doesn't exactly contend with Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken. So he's definitely pretty strong, but not as strong as he could be. Although, since he is still a step up from his original self, that means all the fights he participates in are pretty easy for him, at least easier than they were in the original. And as for Vegeta's fight against Toppo, well, that would just be extraordinary to watch at least, since it's two God of Destruction candidates duking it out with the power of literal Hakayashins. That's so rad. Both of the forms would look incredible. I mean, I loved the way Toppo's did in the original, but either way, eventually Vegeta would still end up beating him. This is a Vegeta who would have been solely trained by Whis and Beerus. I understand there's an argument to be made that two Saiyans training together is more effective than one, but since Whis is, well, the perfect teacher, I believe that getting his sole attention would probably lead to Vegeta being a bit stronger than originally, even without Goku to motivate him. And hell, who's to say Goku doesn't motivate him right now? Goku is able to actually push him despite the fact he's not training under godly teachers. So now, having the same transformation, Vegeta would be able to trounce Toppo going all out, and he does, knocking him out of the arena and leading to Universe 11 being pretty worse for wear. However, they're not the only ones struggling, seeing as Universe 6 would be down most of its fighters, the only ones left being Hit as well as the Saiyans, since the rest of them didn't really matter and Frost was bound to get defeated by Frieza anyway. Can't have a lesser breed in the family. If anything, I can totally see Cooler just taking over Frost, giving him a power boost as well as allowing for Frost to technically still be in the ring, although assisting Universe 7 rather than 6. Maybe you could say that this would be against the rules and Champa certainly would, but Zeno doesn't care because it's cool. In fact, it's cooler. And when it comes to Hit, I feel like Cooler, Frost, and Frieza would all just kind of gang up on him. Maybe Hit could stand his own for a little while here, but after being pressured by 3 incredibly powerful Frost Demons, not even he could stand up to the challenge, and would get knocked out as well. This means it's only Kaba and Kefla, as both Caulifla and Kale would still fuse here, leading to an incredibly powerful transformation, especially when Kale understands her legendary Berserker form, which would mean that they're one of the strongest in the tournament right now. But after Goku reawakens Ultra Instinct, realizing getting pressured by someone this strong would probably lead to that, he's able to take out Kefla, although it's much more even than in the original because, well, Goku isn't as strong here. But he would actually be able to master Ultra Instinct far more effectively than Goku did in the original, as well as far quicker, seeing as Goku would be more intelligent, and even though he might not have the same battle IQ, they would be pretty similar. So Goku, well, this version of Goku, not the original version of Goku, I'm getting kind of confused here, would be able to master Ultra Instinct by the second time he uses it, and after getting healed again by Android 21, he'd be able to activate it on his own, and going up against Jiren and pushing himself even further, he would completely master the technique. He might not be as strong in base, but with a more astute understanding of Ultra Instinct, as well as being healed by the Dame Mame Android 21, I definitely feel like Jiren would be knocked out here, especially if Goku got the help of, let's say, Vegeta and Frieza, and even Gohan, because he might not be the strongest person in the tournament, but he's still definitely a factor. This would lead to Universe 11 being taken out far earlier than in the original, probably around the halfway point rather than the very end. And since this leaves the rest of the tournament with just Universe 6 being just Kaba, and Universe 7 who would have Goku, Frieza, Vegeta, Android 21, and maybe Gohan, well, I mean, I think everybody else is screwed. And Kaba is pretty much fighting for Universe 7 here, meaning that 6 and 7 have kind of made an alliance, although after Kaba's eventually taken out by some stray Ki Blast or another, Universe 6 would be defeated. And by the way, Frost would also be taken out in some way, shape, or form. Honestly, I can see Cooler realizing Frost is the last fighter and just deciding to kill an entire universe because he can. But you know, that's what happens when you enter a genocidal maniac into a tournament to decide the lives of literally trillions. But eventually, everybody else that isn't from Universe 7 would be taken out, meaning that Universe 7 itself would be crowned the winning universe in the tournament, which then leads to Goku being crowned MVP since he was the leader of the team as well as second strongest. Now, Vegeta might actually fall behind Master Ultra Instinct Goku, but that's a debate that we're actually seeing in the manga play out right now. even if it's not the same circumstances. So we'll say Vegeta's a wee bit stronger, but just didn't get enough eliminations. Either way, it turns out pretty much the same, as whoever the MVP is, save Frieza and Cooler, would wish for every other universe to be brought back to life. And with the day saved, Whis would decide to be a nice guy and revive Frieza just out of the kindness of his heart. However, Cooler would still be dragged back down to the pits of hell because Champa would refuse to allow that genocidal maniac to be back in the world of the living, despite what Whis might want to do, but honestly, he doesn't care. He just thought it'd be funny to bring Frieza back. And after a couple of months pass, we would see the Broly movie transpire, although it would be terribly easy for the main cast simply because Goku has already mastered Ultra Instinct, and he wouldn't be playing around here. So, seeing as Broly is a genuine threat to the Earth, he just, knocks him out, beats the crap out of Frieza and sends him on his way, if not killing him because that's just the smart choice. Either way, eventually Broly would be taken down, and maybe, just maybe, we get to see an Ultra Gogeta, but the odds for that are very slim. Since, well, everybody's just so strong here, Broly isn't really a threat at all, especially if they take him out right away. But that doesn't mean that we're not getting any more arcs from now on. Oh wait, no, it does, because the manga arcs are boring, and the superhero arc was just a movie that wouldn't happen because the Red Ribbon's just completely destroyed. No, I take that back. The manga arcs were actually surprisingly fun, but they haven't been animated, so I doubt a lot of people know what goes on exactly there. Most of you probably do because you watch the likes of Salad Saiyan and Carthu's Dojo, who do cover those, Carthu especially, but at the same time, I just don't feel like getting into them, and I feel like this is the best place to stop the story for now. Although, if it does get enough positive attention, much like with Bulma and 18's version of these what-ifs, I will give it another part. But I haven't gotten around to those two yet, so don't expect anything just so soon. And now, with the universe restored to peace and everything going good for the foreseeable future, that is where we'll be ending things for today. I hope you enjoyed watching this, as I certainly enjoyed making it, and if you could please like the video, subscribe to the page, and hit the notification bell, that way you're notified whenever I release any new videos. That would be very much appreciated. And now, with this gigantic video, or long list of videos all on a playlist, no matter what way you're watching this, I don't really care, I hope all of you have an excellent day. This is, always has been, and always will be the Irishman. Talk to you later. Bye.